My first story comes from Sarah, who bravely shared her encounter with a man she met on a popular dating app. It started, as many do, with hopeful swipes and engaging conversations. Mark was charming, witty, and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know her. After a week of back-and-forth messages, they decided to meet for coffee. The date was pleasant, even exciting. Mark was just as engaging in person, easy to talk to, and they shared a surprising number of common interests. Sarah felt a genuine connection, a rare find in the often superficial world of online dating. They went on a second date, then a third. Everything felt right, almost too perfect. Mark was attentive, remembered small details about her life, and seemed incredibly supportive. He lived in a cozy apartment not too far from hers, filled with books and art, giving off a cultured and intellectual vibe. One evening, after a particularly lovely dinner, Mark invited Sarah back to his place for a nightcap. She hesitated for a moment, weighing the pros and cons, but the comfortable familiarity they had built quickly outweighed any lingering apprehension. She trusted him. As they sat on his sofa, chatting and sipping wine, Sarah noticed a small, intricately carved wooden box on a shelf, tucked away behind a stack of art books. It looked old, perhaps an antique. Curiosity piqued. She asked him about it. Mark smiled, a slightly unnerving, almost secretive smile that sent a shiver down her spine, though she quickly dismissed it as her imagination. "Oh, that old thing?" he said, his voice a little too casual. "It's just a collection." He didn't elaborate, and the conversation shifted smoothly. But something about his demeanor, the way his eyes briefly flickered towards the box, stayed with her. Later, while Mark was in the kitchen refilling their glasses, Sarah's eyes were drawn back to the box. She couldn't resist. Carefully, she reached for it, her fingers brushing against the cool, smooth wood. It wasn't locked. With a gentle click, she lifted the lid. Inside, neatly arranged, were various small, seemingly insignificant items: a faded hair tie, a single earring, a crumpled movie ticket stub, a dried flower petal, a small handwritten note that simply read, "Coffee 2018. Each item was placed with deliberate care, like precious artifacts in a museum exhibit. A cold dread began to spread through her. These weren't random trinkets. The hair tie looked eerily similar to one she owned. The movie ticket, while generic, sent a jolt of recognition through her. Her stomach churned. This wasn't a collection of personal mementos. It felt like a collection from people. A shiver far more intense than the first ran through her. It wasn't the objects themselves that were terrifying. It was the implication. Who were these women? Why did Mark have these items? Had he taken them without their knowledge? A sense of profound violation washed over her. Just then, Mark reappeared, holding 2 fresh glasses of wine. His eyes immediately darted to the open box in her hands. His smile vanished. The casual charm evaporated, replaced by a gaze that was utterly devoid of warmth, chilling her to the bone. "Sarah," he said, his voice low, a warning. The air in the room grew heavy, suffocating. She felt frozen in fear, her mind racing, trying to process the sudden shift, the predatory glint in his eyes. Dropping the box as if it were scalding hot, Sarah scrambled to her feet. I need to go," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. Mark didn't move. His eyes locked on hers, a silent, unsettling intensity radiating from him. She felt an urgent, primal need to escape. Without another word, she practically ran to the door, fumbling with the lock. She could feel his gaze burning into her back the entire time. Once outside, she didn't stop until she was safely in her car, heart hammering against her ribs. The image of those carefully curated items and Mark's chilling stare burned into her mind. She never saw him again, and she deleted her dating profile that very night. To this day, the thought of what else might have been in that box and what Mark truly collected makes her skin crawl.
Our next story comes from Emily, who was looking for a fresh start after a particularly difficult breakup. She turned to a dating app, hoping to find someone kind and understanding, a gentle soul. She connected with David, a man who seemed to embody exactly that. He was an artist, lived a bit outside the city in a quiet, secluded area, and his profile pictures showed him surrounded by nature, looking thoughtful and serene. Their conversations were deep and meaningful, discussing art, philosophy, and their hopes for the future. Emily felt drawn to his seemingly introspective nature. After a few weeks of delightful online exchanges, David suggested they meet. He offered to cook dinner for her at his place. Emily hesitated, as meeting at someone's home for a first date felt a little unconventional, especially given its remote location. He reassured her, explaining that he loved to cook and that his home was his sanctuary, the perfect place to get to know someone without the distractions of a busy restaurant. He even offered to pick her up, insisting on her safety and comfort. Against her better judgment, swayed by his charm and the romantic notion of a quiet evening, she agreed. The drive was long, taking them further and further away from the city lights, down winding country roads that eventually became narrow, unpaved tracks. The signal on her phone began to fade, a small prickle of unease starting to form in her gut. She tried to dismiss it, telling herself it was just the rural setting. Finally, they arrived at a secluded cabin nestled deep within a dense forest. It was picturesque in a rustic, almost isolated way. The silence was profound, broken only by the chirping of crickets and the rustling of leaves. David greeted her warmly, and for a while, everything seemed fine. He had prepared a delicious meal, and the conversation flowed easily. But as the evening wore on, small things began to chip away at Emily's sense of ease. David had an unsettling habit of staring, his gaze lingering a little too long, a little too intensely. He would occasionally make strange, almost possessive comments about their future, even though they had just met in person for the first time. When she excused herself to use the restroom, she noticed that the cabin had no curtains on any of the windows, leaving the large glass panes to reflect the dense, dark woods outside like obsidian mirrors. It felt exposed, yet paradoxically, utterly cut off from the world. As it grew late, Emily felt a growing urge to leave. She mentioned that she should probably head home. David's smile stiffened. "Already?" he asked, his voice losing some of its earlier warmth. "But it's so late, and the roads are dark. Why don't you stay? I have a guest room." The offer, meant to sound hospitable, now felt like a veiled suggestion, almost a command. Her heart began to pound. She insisted, reiterating that she had an early start the next day. David finally relented, but the air was thick with unspoken tension. As they walked back to his car, which was parked behind the cabin, Emily noticed something disturbing. The path they had taken to get in had several large, freshly cut fallen logs across it, blocking the way. "Oh dear," said David, feigning surprise. "Looks like some trees came down with the wind today. It'll take me a while to clear these. You know, it's really not safe for you to drive back on these roads right now." His tone was too calm, his eyes too knowing. Emily felt a surge of pure terror. The phone signal was completely gone. She was trapped. Panic clawed at her throat. She looked at the impassable road, then at David, who was now just standing there watching her with that unnerving smile. The serenity she had initially perceived now felt like a carefully constructed facade, masking something predatory and sinister. She knew with chilling certainty that getting out of there would be far more difficult than she had ever imagined. She had walked straight into a trap, lured by charm and the promise of a quiet evening. It took every ounce of her composure not to scream. The rest of that night was a desperate fight for survival, a harrowing blur that she still struggles to articulate, a nightmare she barely escaped from, forever haunted by the profound isolation of that house in the woods and the smiling face of the man who led her there.
This next terrifying experience comes from Alex, who found himself caught in a web of digital deceit that bled horrifyingly into his real life. He matched with Chloe on a dating app. Her profile was vibrant, full of adventurous photos and a witty bio. Their conversations were exhilarating, filled with laughter and shared interests. She seemed perfect, almost too good to be true, a thought that would later haunt him. After a few weeks of intense messaging, they planned to meet, but just days before their scheduled date, Chloe mysteriously ghosted him. No explanation, no further messages. Alex was disappointed, but, like many, chalked it up to the unpredictable nature of online dating and moved on. A few months passed. Alex had deleted the app and was focusing on his work. One Tuesday morning, he walked into his favorite coffee shop, a small independent place just 2 blocks from his apartment. As he waited for his latte, he noticed a woman sitting alone, reading a book. She looked familiar, too familiar. He tried to place her, but couldn't. Then, as she looked up, Her eyes met his, and a slow, knowing smile spread across her face. It was Chloe, or at least the woman from Chloe's profile pictures. Alex's stomach dropped. He approached her, a knot of confusion and a faint tremor of unease tightening in his chest. "Chloe?" he asked, his voice hesitant. She chuckled softly. "Oh, you remember me? That's sweet." Her tone was playful, but her eyes held an intensity that made him uncomfortable. She then recounted details from their online conversations, things they had only discussed in private messages. How did she know he still came to this coffee shop every Tuesday morning? How did she know about his new promotion, which he hadn't even posted about online? He asked why she ghosted him. She merely shrugged, a mysterious glint in her eyes. "Things got complicated, but I guess fate brought us back together, didn't it?" Alex felt a chill. This wasn't fate. This felt deliberate. He made an excuse and quickly left, his latte forgotten, a sense of dread beginning to take root. He tried to rationalize it. Maybe she lived in the area. Maybe she'd seen his work posts. Maybe it was a strange coincidence. But deep down, he knew something was very wrong. The unsettling encounters continued. A few days later, as he was leaving his gym, he saw her again, casually leaning against a car across the street, pretending to be on her phone. She caught his eye, offered another one of those unnerving smiles, and then quickly drove away. Then he noticed strange activity on his social media. Old photos he rarely looked at were suddenly liked by anonymous accounts. His friends started receiving vague, cryptic messages from new profiles, asking about him. It was subtle, insidious, designed to make him question his sanity. The ultimate moment of terror came when he returned home one evening. His apartment felt wrong. Nothing was overtly disturbed, but a small decorative magnet on his fridge, one he'd bought on a trip years ago and always kept slightly crooked, was now perfectly straight. He knew he hadn't straightened it. A cold wave of realization washed over him. She hadn't just been following him, she had been inside his apartment. The thought of an unknown person, someone who had built a fake persona online, being in his most private space, made my blood run cold. He immediately called the police, but without concrete proof of a break-in or direct threat, their hands were tied. He changed his locks, installed security cameras, and spent sleepless nights staring at the ceiling, every creak and shadow amplifying his terror. He never saw Chloe again after that night, but the psychological impact was profound. He felt violated, exposed, and utterly vulnerable. The carefree days of online dating were replaced by a constant gnawing paranoia. The shadow profile had not only found him, it had invaded his life, leaving an indelible mark of fear and distrust. A chilling reminder that the anonymity of the internet can breed truly terrifying obsessions that can cross the boundary into your physical world. Our fourth story comes from Jessica, who, after a string of disappointing dates, thought she had finally found someone truly special. Ben was everything she could have hoped for: intelligent, charming, and incredibly attentive. Their connection was immediate and palpable, their conversations flowing effortlessly from lighthearted banter to deep discussions about their lives and dreams. They met on a popular dating app, and after a few fantastic dates, Jessica felt herself falling for him. He seemed genuinely kind, and for the first time in a long while, she felt truly optimistic about a relationship. One evening, during a cozy dinner at a quiet restaurant, Ben began to share stories about his childhood and his path to his current career. He spoke of growing up in a small rural town, a place he hadn't mentioned before. As he described his hometown, a name popped into Jessica's mind, a name that had been tragically etched into the local news headlines years ago. It was the name of a young woman, a case that had captivated the region, a brutal, unsolved murder that had haunted the community for years. Jessica tried to shake the thought. It was just a coincidence, she told herself. Small towns often had their share of tragedies, but a strange, cold sensation began to creep up her spine. Ben paused in his story, noticing her sudden quietness. "Everything all right?" he asked, his smile faltering slightly. "Just thinking," she replied, trying to sound casual. "That town name, it sounds familiar. Wasn't there a big case there a while back?" A flicker of something unreadable crossed his eyes, gone in an instant. He quickly composed himself, his smile returning, though it felt less genuine now. "Oh, that old thing. Yeah, some terrible stuff happened. Years ago. Best not to dwell on it." He deftly changed the subject, smoothly steering the conversation to lighter topics. But the seed of doubt had been planted, a tiny, insidious worm burrowing into Jessica's mind. Later that night, unable to shake the unsettling feeling, Jessica found herself on her laptop searching for news archives from that specific town and year. Her fingers trembled slightly as she typed in the keywords. What she found sent a jolt of pure horror through her. A grainy newspaper article, yellowed with age, detailing the gruesome murder of the young woman. And there, buried deep in the article, a mention of a local boy who had been questioned extensively by the police but was ultimately released due to insufficient evidence. His age matched Ben's, and his description, though vague, was unsettlingly close. The photos in the article were disturbing, but one detail sent a fresh wave of nausea through her, a small, distinctive scar near the victim's left eyebrow. She remembered Ben mentioning a faint scar near his own, claiming it was a childhood accident. It was a common enough place for a scar, but combined with everything else, it twisted her stomach into knots. The pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. The way he had quickly changed the subject, his momentary flash in his eyes, his reluctance to discuss his past in that town. Jessica felt like she couldn't breathe. The man she had been opening her heart to, the man she thought was kind and gentle, might be a murderer. The charming facade had suddenly shattered, revealing a monstrous possibility. She didn't confront him. She couldn't. The fear was too paralyzing. Instead, she ended things abruptly, citing personal reasons, her voice trembling as she spoke to him on the phone. He sounded disappointed, but accepted it without much argument, which only amplified her terror. She blocked him on everything, changed her routines, and for months she constantly looked over her shoulder, convinced he would somehow find her, his perfect charm having been replaced by the chilling image of a predator hiding in plain sight. The experience left her with a deep, pervasive distrust, a grim reminder of how little you truly know about the person on the other side of the screen, or even across the dinner table. Our final story for tonight comes from Liam, whose first date turned into a bizarre and terrifying glimpse into a world he never knew existed. Liam had matched with Michelle, a vibrant and attractive woman on a dating app. Her profile was intriguing, stating she worked in international logistics and loved spontaneous adventures. Their initial conversations were lively, full of banter and witty remarks. She seemed intelligent, confident, and utterly captivating. Liam was genuinely excited for their first meeting. They decided on a casual evening at a popular bar with a lively atmosphere. Michelle arrived looking stunning, and their conversation picked up right where it left off online. Liam felt an instant connection, charmed by her quick wit and engaging personality. However, about half an hour into their date, her phone began to buzz incessantly. She apologized, explaining she was on call for her job. She took a quick call, stepping just outside, her voice low and urgent. When she returned, she looked a little rattled, but quickly composed herself. "Just a minor emergency," she said with a forced smile. "Comes with the territory of international logistics." Throughout the rest of the evening, her phone kept buzzing with texts and calls. She would glance at them, her expression shifting from annoyance to a strange sort of grim determination. At one point, she took another call, stepping further away this time, speaking in hushed, hurried tones. Liam couldn't help but overhear snippets. "The shipment is delayed. We need to reroute immediately. Tell Marco to stand by." It sounded incredibly high stakes, almost cinematic for a logistics job. He tried to brush it off as typical corporate drama, but a sense of unease began to gnaw at him. As the night progressed, Michelle's attention became increasingly divided. She kept checking her watch, her eyes frequently darting to the bar's exit. Liam felt like he was constantly losing her to an invisible, urgent demand.
He tried to ask more about her job, but her answers were vague, evasive, and seemed to contradict each other at times. She spoke of deadlines and sensitive cargo, but also hinted at risks and unconventional methods. The turning point came when she excused herself for a moment to use the restroom. She left her phone on the table, face down. A new message popped up, illuminating the screen briefly. Liam, out of pure instinct, or perhaps a growing suspicion, glanced at it. The message sender was simply "Boss," and the content read, "Michelle, they found the drop. Abort immediately. Get out of there now. Do not engage." Liam's blood ran cold. They found the drop. Abort immediately. This was not about international logistics of consumer goods. This was something far, far more sinister. His mind raced, connecting the dots. The secrecy, the urgency, the veiled comments about risks. He wasn't just on a date with a busy career woman. He was sitting across from someone involved in something incredibly dangerous, perhaps illegal. And by extension, he was now an unwitting participant, having been seen with her, perhaps even observed. Michelle returned, her face pale, her eyes wide with a fear he hadn't seen before. She grabbed her phone without a word, her gaze sweeping the bar as if searching for someone. "I have to go," she stammered, already halfway out of her seat. "Something truly urgent came up. I'm so sorry, Liam." She practically fled, leaving him sitting alone, utterly stunned. Liam didn't follow her. He didn't even try to text her later. The chill that settled over him was profound. He quickly paid his tab and left, his heart pounding, every shadow on the street seeming to hold a hidden danger. He deleted the dating app, his brief foray into online romance ending with a terrifying brush with the criminal underworld. He was left with the chilling realization that he had unknowingly stumbled into a dangerous situation, and the profound discomfort of knowing that he had almost been pulled deeper into a secret life that could have had devastating consequences for him. The experience left him with an enduring suspicion of appearances and the unsettling understanding that some people carry secrets far darker than any online profile could ever reveal. If you found yourself captivated by these unsettling true accounts and want to support the channel, please take a moment to subscribe and turn on notification bells. It helps more than you know and ensures you don't miss future terrifying narratives. Do you have a personal, true story that you'd like to share? Something that happened to you that still haunts you? Send it to submit.asadamin273@gmail.com. I read every submission personally. Please ensure your story is well written, with good sentence structure and grammar, and let me know how you wish to be credited, whether by first name, initials, a pseudonym, or anonymously.